Hello and welcome to this Palm Sunday address. I hope you're staying safe and cheerful. Well, alas, there are no palm crosses this year. No procession through the Shrivenham High Street with the donkeys. No united gathering with friends from all the churches to celebrate Jesus' entry into Jerusalem on the first Palm Sunday. And no, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. Those are words from our communion service. And of course, they're the words shouted out by the crowd as Jesus went by. How hard it is this year not to be able to gather together. How bereft we felt when our church services were stopped. And what a loss when our church buildings were locked shut. Our instinct to be with other people is very strong. Some friends who can't leave their holiday apartment in Spain tell us how residents in their block come out onto their balconies each evening to have a communal singing session. And now thousands stand outside their houses every Thursday evening to applaud the staff of the NHS and all the others whose work has become so vital to us in these difficult days. And when we can't get together physically, we do what we can with electronic gadgets. WhatsApp has never been so busy. Even aging techno novices like us have been getting used to FaceTime. And yesterday I enjoyed my first Zoom session with two old friends. It went very well. And the churches don't want to be left out either. We're trying to get together in whatever ways we can. Before we had to close our church buildings, I suggested to Norma that we might at least gather silently in church at the same time as each other, even though we had to be a long way apart. Sadly, we never got the chance to try this. But we can still join in some of the many church services being streamed from different venues around the country. Last Sunday, I joined in the service led by our three Oxford bishops. I found it very moving. I can recommend giving it a try if that's your thing. And in our own parishes, we're invited to light a candle and say a prayer at 7 o'clock each Sunday evening. Bishop Stephen has suggested we pause each morning for a moment of prayer at 11. All these are excellent. All are ways in which we're trying to be together to celebrate the presence of Jesus with us. Behind all our gatherings lie the words spoken or unspoken. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest. But maybe, too, this is the time to remember another tradition in the Christian faith, the tradition of seeking God's presence by ourselves, on our own, in the quiet of our own space. Jesus once said, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Jesus himself often went off by himself to a quiet place in this way. 400 or 500 years later, some Christians began to do this as a way of life. They went out into the deserts of Egypt to live by themselves, sometimes in communities, sometimes entirely alone. They became known as the Desert Fathers and the Desert Mothers, people who gave future generations a lot of wise words about being on your own with God. And the tradition has continued ever since. I have a very old friend who's practiced a gentle form of self-isolation for several years. He's a modern kind of hermit. It's his way of living out his faith, and I don't know a wiser, kinder, or more visited person than him. Not everyone can find quiet like this. I think of many families at the moment with young and boisterous children at home all day. Not much chance of peace and quiet for them. And not everyone wants to be quiet in this way, even if it is possible. Sometimes we're a bit afraid of being on our own with God. We'd rather be with other people. But in these difficult days, when we can't get together with others as we'd like to, let's remember that God comes to us and is with us quite as much when we're alone as when we're in church with others. In the solitude of our own company, we can be glad and say, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest."